The helmet sat on a folding table between a rusty toaster and a box of VHS tapes, its dull silver surface catching the morning light. Ethan Mills picked it up, turning it over in his calloused hands. It was lightweight despite its solid appearance, with strange geometric patterns etched into its sides. "How much?" he asked the elderly woman running the garage sale. She squinted at the helmet. $10, found it when we cleared out my husband's workshop, probably just some movie prop. Ethan nodded, reaching for his wallet. As a motorcycle mechanic whose shop was struggling, he couldn't afford frivolous purchases, but something about the helmet called to him. Maybe he could clean it up and display it in his shop, give the place some character. "Sold," he said, handing over a crumpled $10 bill. That night, after a grueling day of barely breaking even at Mills Motors, Ethan sat in his cramped apartment above the shop, polishing the helmet. The strange markings began to glow faintly under his touch. Curious, he lifted the helmet and placed it on his head. It fit perfectly, too perfectly, as if custom-made for him. Then the world around him disappeared. Calibrating neural interface. Host compatibility, 98.3%, beginning synchronization. Ethan gasped as information flooded his mind. Star maps, mathematical equations, and a language he somehow understood despite never having seen it before. "Hello, Ethan Mills." The voice was feminine, resonant, and unmistakably inside his head. He yanked the helmet off, throwing it onto his couch. "What the hell?" "Please replace the neural interface. Communication is difficult without proper connection." Hesitantly, Ethan put the helmet back on. What are you?" A holographic display appeared before his eyes, showing a woman with iridescent blue skin, angular features, and silvery hair that seemed to float around her head. She wore armor similar to the helmet's material. "I am Kina, High Commander of the Astral Dominion and rightful Queen of the Seventh Quadrant. I have been imprisoned in this neural interface for 300 cycles." "You're an alien?" Ethan whispered, heart-pounding. "My body is held in stasis on my homeworld Atoria. My consciousness was separated as punishment for opposing the Galactic Conclave." Her voice softened. "Your neural patterns are remarkably compatible with this interface. Fate has brought us together, Ethan Mills." Ethan paced his small apartment. "This is insane. I'm talking to an alien queen inside a garage sale helmet." "I understand your skepticism. Allow me to demonstrate." Suddenly, Ethan's vision sharpened dramatically. He could see dust particles floating in the air, read the fine print on a bill across the room. His hearing amplified. He could hear conversations from the street below, the hum of electricity in the walls. "This neural interface enhances your biological functions. It's merely a fraction of what I can offer you." Kalina's voice had a hypnotic quality. "Help me return to my body, and technology beyond your imagination will be yours." "Why should I trust you?" Ethan asked, though he was already mesmerized by his enhanced senses. "Because I need you as much as you need me," she replied. "You're struggling, Ethan. Your business is failing. Your dreams are slipping away. I can help you achieve everything you desire." Before he could respond, there was a pounding at his door. Through the helmet's enhanced vision, he could see heat signatures of multiple people outside his apartment. "Federal agents, open up." "They've detected the interface activation," Kina said urgently. "They've been monitoring unusual energy signatures for decades. We must leave immediately." "What? How did they?" "There's no time. There's a motorcycle maintenance tunnel behind your shop. If we reach it, I can guide you to safety." Ethan hesitated for only a moment before grabbing his jacket and the few $100s from his emergency stash. With the helmet securely on his head, he opened his window and climbed onto the fire escape just as his door burst open. As he descended toward the alley, he felt Kalina's presence guiding his movements, making him faster and more agile than he'd ever been. For better or worse, his life had irrevocably changed, all because of a $10 helmet and the alien queen who lived inside it. The motorcycle roared beneath Ethan as he sped down the coastal highway, the helmet firmly on his head. 3 days had passed since his escape, and he'd barely stopped moving. "They're still tracking us," Kalina's voice resonated in his mind. "The neural interface emits a unique energy signature when active." "Can't you turn it off?" Ethan asked, leaning into a curve with newfound precision. The helmet had transformed his riding abilities, anticipating every turn before he consciously registered it. If I deactivate completely, we lose our connection, and you lose the protection I provide. Ethan grimaced. Since bonding with the helmet, his reflexes had become superhuman, his senses heightened to extraordinary levels. He'd already dodged 2 attempts by black-suited agents to capture him. Without Kalina's guidance, he'd likely be in a government lab somewhere. "There's a small town ahead," Kalina said. "We need supplies and temporary shelter. I detect minimal surveillance systems there." The coastal village of Port Haven appeared around the bend, a collection of weathered buildings nestled between cliffs and sea. Ethan found a motel on the outskirts and paid cash for a room, keeping the helmet wrapped in his jacket. Once inside the dingy room, he finally removed the helmet, setting it on the nightstand. The separation always felt strange now, like losing a sense he'd taken for granted. The world seemed duller, his thoughts more isolated. Kalina projected herself as a hologram from the helmet, a shimmering blue figure that paced the small room. Though just light and energy, her movements held a graceful authority that captivated him. "We need to discuss your world," she said. "Your level of technology is primitive, but there are components we could adapt." "Before we talk about building alien tech, I want answers," Ethan said, sitting on the bed. "Who exactly imprisoned you? Why should I risk my life to free you?" Kalina's holographic form approached him, her expression softening. "My people, the Astorians, were peacekeepers of the galaxy until the conclave rose to power. They believed our technology was too advanced to share with developing worlds." She knelt before him, her iridescent eyes meeting his. "I believed knowledge belongs to all sentient beings. For that, they sentenced me to eternal consciousness imprisonment." "And what happens if I get you back to your body?" Ethan asked. "Then I can reclaim my throne and ensure the conclave never imprisons another being." She reached out as if to touch his face, though her holographic hand passed through him. "And I can reward your courage with technology that would transform your life and your world." There was something in her gaze that made Ethan believe her, or perhaps he wanted to believe. Either way, he was already too involved to turn back. "We should rest," she said, standing. "Tomorrow, we'll need to acquire components to modify the interface. It will allow us to mask our energy signature." As Ethan lay on the bed, Kalina's hologram sat beside him, watching over him with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. "Does it get lonely?" he asked suddenly, "being trapped in there for centuries?" "Time passes differently in this state," she replied softly, "but yes, loneliness has been my constant companion." Her form flickered slightly. "Until now." In the morning, Ethan ventured into town, following Kalina's mental shopping list. At an electronics store, he purchased various components that seemed ordinary to him, but that she assured him could be repurposed. "The man behind the counter is watching you too closely," Kalina warned as Ethan paid. "He's reaching for a phone." Ethan casually thanked the clerk and left, but quickened his pace once outside. As he rounded a corner, he spotted a black SUV rolling slowly down the street. "They've found us," he muttered, ducking into an alley. "Put on the helmet," Kalina commanded. The moment the helmet settled on his head, his perception expanded dramatically. Kalina guided his movements as he scaled a fire escape with impossible agility, leaping between rooftops until they reached his motel from above. That night, as agents searched the town, Ethan worked under Kalina's guidance, soldering components to the inner circuitry of the helmet. Their minds worked in perfect synchronization, her knowledge flowing through him, his hands executing with precision he never knew he possessed. "This is remarkable," he said, examining the modified helmet. "I can feel the difference already." "The bond between us grows stronger," Kalina explained. "Each time we connect, our neural patterns align more perfectly." As Ethan replaced the helmet on his head, a wave of pleasure washed over him, an intimate neural connection that felt like both a physical and mental embrace. He gasped at the intensity. "What was that?" he asked, breathless. Kalina's voice carried a hint of surprise and something else, something warmer. "A deeper synchronization than I anticipated. Our connection is unusual." That night, as Ethan slept with the helmet beside him, he dreamed of soaring through alien skis, Kalina's consciousness intertwined with his. In the dream, she wasn't a hologram or a voice, but solid and real, her hand in his as they navigated the cosmos together. He woke with the certainty that their fates were now inseparably linked, for better or worse. As the sunrise filtered through the motel curtains, Ethan realized that in just a few days, this alien queen had awakened something in him that had lain dormant his entire life. A sense of purpose, and perhaps the beginning of something that felt dangerously like love. The research facility perched on the edge of a remote Alaskan peninsula, its white walls blending with the snow-covered landscape. Dr. Alina Frost, a disgraced astrophysicist who'd been ridiculed for her theories on extraterrestrial technology, was the only person Kalina believed could help them. She's published papers on energy signatures matching Astorian technology, Kalina explained as Ethan approached the facility, without raising suspicion. "And you're sure she won't turn us in?" Ethan asked, the wind whipping around him. "She has been ostracized by your scientific community. People who have experienced rejection are often more receptive to unconventional truths." Ethan had traveled across the country on his motorcycle, the modified helmet concealing their energy signature from government tracking. The journey had brought them closer. Kalina had shared memories of her world, while Ethan had shown her the beauty of Earth through his eyes. Their consciousness had begun to blend in ways neither fully understood. Dr. Frost was a tall woman with prematurely white hair and intense gray eyes. She regarded Ethan with suspicion when he claimed to have information about alien technology, but when he placed the helmet on her desk, her demeanor changed instantly. "My God," she whispered, running her fingers over the geometric patterns. "The alloy composition alone. This isn't possible with Earth metallurgy." "There's more," Ethan said, placing the helmet on his head. "She wants to meet you." Kalina projected her holographic form, causing Alina to stumble back against her desk. "Impossible," she breathed. "I am Kalina of the Astral Dominion," the blue figure stated, "and I require your assistance, Dr. Frost." Over the next week, the three worked tirelessly in Alina's private lab. The scientist was ecstatic to have her theories validated and threw herself into helping them. Using Kalina's knowledge and Earth technology, they began constructing a device that could locate the nearest Astorian outpost, a hidden gateway Kalina believed existed somewhere on Earth. "My people always established emergency transport nodes on planets of interest," Kalina explained as they worked. "If we can locate it, we can use it to reach Astoria." As they worked, Ethan and Kalina's connection deepened. Each night, when the work was done and Alina retired to her quarters, Ethan would lie in his small room with the helmet, their consciousnesses merging in a state beyond physical intimacy. Their thoughts, memories, and emotions intertwined in a neural dance that left them both breathless. "I never anticipated this," Kalina confessed during one such connection. Her hologram lay beside him on the bed, looking more solid than ever as their shared mental energy strengthened her projection. "In my culture, the joining of minds is more intimate than physical union." "I can feel you," Ethan said, reaching toward her holographic form. Though his hand passed through her image in their mental connection, he could sense her as clearly as if she were physically present. "Not just your thoughts, but you, your essence." "The neural interface was never designed for this level of synchronization," she said softly. "What's happening between us is unprecedented." Their mental intimacy had begun to manifest physically as well. When Kalina guided Ethan's movements during their work, the boundary between them blurred. Her memories became his emotions flowed into her. He could sometimes taste the metallic sweetness of Astorian fruit she remembered from her past, while she experienced the salt spray of oceans he had visited. On the 10th day, Alina's tracking device finally pinpointed a location, a signal buried deep within a mountain range in Colorado. "The readings are unmistakable," Alina said, excitement coloring her voice. "It's exactly the energy signature I've been searching for my entire career." As they prepared for the journey to the coordinates, Alina pulled Ethan aside. "I've been observing your connection with her," she said quietly. "It's affecting you physiologically. Your brainwave patterns are altering to match hers." "Is that dangerous?" Ethan asked. Alina's expression was grave. "I don't know, but the more you merge with her, the less human your neural patterns become. I fear what might happen if you complete a full neural synchronization." That night, Ethan confronted Kalina. "You never mentioned the interface could change me permanently." Kalina's hologram regarded him with an unreadable expression. "The changes are a natural consequence of our connection. Your brain is evolving to accommodate new forms of consciousness. And what happens when we reach your body? Will I just be discarded? The thought brought an unexpected pain. Kalina's form flickered as she moved closer. No, Ethan, what's happening between us is rare even among my people. The neural bond we've formed, it cannot be severed without damaging us both. Their gazes locked, and Ethan felt the truth in her words through their connection, along with emotions too complex for human language. When they merged that night, it was with a new understanding of the permanent nature of their bond. 3 days later, they stood at the base of a sheer cliff face in the Rockies. Alina's equipment indicated the Astorian signal originated from somewhere within the mountain. There should be an entrance, Kalina guided, marked with symbols similar to those on the helmet. As they searched the rock wall, a distant sound made Ethan freeze, helicopter rotors. They've tracked the signal, Alina said, frantically checking her equipment. My equipment must have triggered their sensors. There, Ethan spotted strange markings nearly invisible against the stone. Placing his hand against them while wearing the helmet, the rock face shimmered and dissolved, revealing a corridor of gleaming metal that hadn't seen human eyes in millennia. Quickly, Kalina urged as the helicopters grew louder. As they entered, Alina hesitated at the threshold. I'll stay behind, she said firmly. I'll divert them, buy you time. They'll arrest you, Ethan protested. Alina smiled sadly. Worth it. I've seen proof of everything I've worked for. Now go find your answers. As the entrance sealed behind them, leaving Alina to face the approaching agents, Ethan and Kalina descended into the ancient Astorian outpost. Their next step on a journey that was transforming them both in ways neither had anticipated, bound together by a connection that transcended species and physical form. The transport beam dissolved around Ethan, leaving him gasping on an alien floor. Colors he had no names for swirled in the atmosphere of Astoria, the air thicker and sweeter than Earth's. The ancient outpost had worked, activating a quantum tunnel that had flung them across galaxies in an instant. We've arrived. Kalina's voice was different here, stronger, more resonant. This is my homeworld. Ethan removed the helmet for the first time since entering the outpost, expecting Kalina's hologram to appear. Instead, the air before him shimmered and her form materialized with unprecedented solidity. Though still translucent, she was far more present than she had been on Earth. The ambient energy here strengthens my projection, she explained, noticing his surprise. My physical form is close, I can feel it. They stood in a vast chamber of spiraling architecture, living metal that seemed to breathe and pulse with energy. Through massive crystal windows, Ethan saw a landscape of floating islands connected by bridges of light, all beneath 3 moons of varying sizes and colors. It's beautiful, Ethan whispered. It was, Kalina's expression darkened, before the conclave's corruption. The city spreading below them appeared largely abandoned, its magnificent structures partially reclaimed by vegetation with phosphorescent properties. Few lights indicated habitation in the once great metropolis. What happened? After my imprisonment, the conclave enacted severe restrictions on technological development. Many fled to other systems, those who remained live under oppressive rule. They navigated through the ancient palace, Kalina's former home, now standing empty and echoing with memories that flowed between them through their neural connection. Ethan felt her sorrow as if it were his own, seeing through her memories the vibrant civilization that had once thrived here. The stasis chamber is beneath the celestial observatory, Kalina directed. We must hurry. The transport's energy signature will have alerted the conclave's sentinels. As they descended through the palace, Ethan's enhanced senses, now permanently altered by his bond with Kalina, detected movement in the shadows. We're being watched, he murmured. Yes, Kalina confirmed. Resistance fighters perhaps, or conclave spies. They reached a sealed doorway covered in intricate patterns similar to those on the helmet. When Ethan placed his hand against it while wearing the helmet, the door recognized Kalina's essence and slid open. The chamber beyond took Ethan's breath away, a vast dome with a ceiling that seemed to open directly into space itself, stars swirling in cosmic patterns. At its center stood a crystalline pod, glowing with inner light. My physical form, Kalina whispered, her holographic hand reaching toward the pod. Inside, Ethan could make out a figure, similar to Kalina's hologram but more substantial, her iridescent skin patterned with luminescent markings, her face serene in suspended animation. As they approached, a voice boomed through the chamber. "The traitor returns." 6 figures materialized around them, tall, imposing aliens with stern faces and ceremonial armor. Unlike Kalina's blue complexion, theirs ranged from deep purple to silver. "Conclave arbiters," Kalina's projection straightened, assuming a regal posture. "You have no authority here. This is the royal palace of the astral dominion." "A dominion that fell when you betrayed our most sacred laws," the lead arbiter responded. His gaze shifted to Ethan. "And you bring a primitive species to our world, further proof of your disregard for the natural order." "He is my chosen consort," Kalina declared, moving protectively toward Ethan. "Bonded through the neural interface, his mind is joined with mine." The statement sent murmurs through the arbiters. "Impossible," one whispered. "The interface was programmed to prevent such merging." "Yet it has occurred," Kalina said. "Our neural patterns have harmonized beyond separation." The lead arbiter studied Ethan with new interest. "Remove the helmet, human. Let us see the extent of this claim." Reluctantly, Ethan removed the helmet. To his surprise, Kalina's projection remained, though fainter. The arbiter's expressions changed to shock. "The bond is genuine," one conceded. "Their neural signatures have intertwined." "It changes nothing," the lead arbiter declared. "Kalina's crimes against the conclave stand. The human will be studied, then returned to his primitive world. The helmet will be destroyed." "No," Ethan stepped forward. "You imprisoned her for wanting to share knowledge. How is that a crime?" "Our technologies in the wrong hands have destroyed civilizations," the arbiter responded coldly. "We protect the galaxy from such catastrophes." "By becoming tyrants," Ethan challenged. "Look at your world now empty, declining. Is this protection?" Before the arbiter could respond, the chamber erupted in chaos. Figures emerged from hidden passages, Astorians wearing makeshift armor, wielding energy weapons. "The resistance," Kalina's projection brightened. "My loyalists still live." The battle was swift and disorienting. Energy weapons discharged around Ethan as he ducked behind the stasis pod. Kalina guided his movements even without the helmet, their neural connections strong enough now to function independently for short periods. The resistance fighters pushed back the arbiters, forcing them to retreat. Their leader approached Ethan and Kalina, a female Astorian with battle scars across her features. "My queen," she bowed to Kalina's projection. "We have waited centuries for your return. The royal bloodline carries on through those loyal to your vision." Quickly, they explained their plan to revive Kalina's physical form. The stasis pod required a specific energy sequence to release its occupant, a sequence encoded within the helmet. As they prepared the awakening ritual, the resistance leader took Ethan aside. "You should know the truth before proceeding," she said quietly. "Kalina was not imprisoned merely for wanting to share knowledge." "What do you mean?" Ethan felt a chill. "She developed a technology that would allow consciousness to transfer between bodies, to achieve effective immortality through successive hosts." The resistance leader's expression was grave. The conclave feared she would use it to expand her influence indefinitely. They claimed it would violate the autonomy of host species. Ethan's mind reeled. "Is that why our neural patterns have merged so completely? Am I becoming a host?" "I cannot say," she replied. "But the bond you share is unprecedented. When her physical form awakens, the question will become whether two consciousnesses can exist separately after such merging." As Ethan returned to the stasis pod, he looked at Kalina's projection with new uncertainty. Through their neural connection, he sensed her awareness of his doubts. "You know," she said softly, "were you planning to transfer your consciousness into me?" he asked directly. "No," she answered, her projection moving closer. "But our bond has created something neither of us anticipated, a shared consciousness that belongs to neither of us alone anymore." The helmet began to pulse with energy as the resistance fighters positioned it above the stasis pod. The moment of truth approached. Would releasing Kalina's physical form mean the end of Ethan's identity? Or had their unprecedented neural bond created something entirely new, a shared existence neither could have imagined when a mechanic picked up a strange helmet at a garage sale? As the awakening sequence began, alarms echoed through the chamber. The Arbiters had returned with reinforcements, determined to prevent Kalina's revival. Ethan had seconds to decide whether to complete the process or flee, whether to trust in their connection or protect his own separate existence. The stasis pod hummed with increasing energy as the Resistance fighters engaged the approaching Arbiters. Ethan stood frozen between worlds, Earth mechanic and potential vessel for an alien queen, as alarms blared throughout the chamber. "We must complete the sequence now," the Resistance leader shouted over the chaos, her hands flying across the ancient controls. "Or the stasis field will permanently lock." Kalina's projection hovered beside Ethan, her form flickering with the surging energies. Through their neural connection, he felt her conflict, desire for physical freedom warring with concern for what their merged consciousness would become. "Ethan," she said, her voice intimate despite the battle raging around them, "I never intended this outcome. What we've become together is unprecedented." He looked from her translucent form to the physical body, suspended in the crystal pod. So similar, yet somehow less real to him now than the presence he'd carried in his mind for weeks. "If I complete this," he asked, "will you take over my consciousness? Will I cease to exist?" The honesty that flowed through their connection couldn't be disguised. "I don't know," she admitted. "The neural merging was meant to be temporary, a means of communication, not transformation. What's happened between us has never been documented in a story in history." An energy blast struck nearby, sending shards of crystalline material scattering across the floor. The Arbiters were breaking through the Resistance's defensive line. "Whatever you decide," Kalina said, "it must be now." Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the full depth of their connection, memories of a childhood on Earth intertwined with centuries of Astorian royal training, his mechanical aptitude blended with her knowledge of cosmic technologies. Where did he end and she begin anymore? In that moment of clarity, he realized the choice was not between his existence or hers, but whether to embrace what they had already become, something neither human nor Astorian, but a unique consciousness born of both. He placed the helmet on his head one final time and laid his hands on the stasis pod controls. "I choose us," he whispered, activating the awakening sequence. The chamber filled with blinding light as the stasis field collapsed. Energy cascaded through the helmet, through Ethan, and into the suspended form within the pod. He felt Kalina's consciousness surge, not away from him, but through him, like water finding new channels while remaining part of the same river. When the light faded, the crystal pod stood empty. Before it, Kalina's physical form stood on unsteady legs after centuries of suspension, her iridescent skin glowing, her eyes opening to take in her surroundings. Those eyes found Ethan immediately, widening with recognition. "You're still you," she said in wonder, her voice both familiar and strange coming from physical vocal cords. "And you're still you," he replied, equally amazed. "But we're also something more," she finished, reaching for his hand. When their fingers touched, the connection that had existed in neural space became tangible, a circuit completed. Energy flowed visibly between them, creating a luminescent bridge that caused even the battling factions to pause in awe. The lead arbiter stepped forward, weapons lowered. "This is impossible," he breathed. "The dual consciousness, it was only theoretical, a myth from the ancient texts." "What are you talking about?" Ethan asked, unable to release Kalina's hand, unwilling to break the glowing connection between them. The Resistance leader approached cautiously. "The prophecy speaks of two beings from distant worlds whose consciousnesses would merge without consuming either, creating a bridge between civilizations." "This changes everything," the Arbiter said, his authoritative demeanor faltering. "The conclave imprisoned Kalina because we feared her consciousness transfer technology would lead to domination. But this is symbiosis, not conquest." Around them, the fighting had ceased entirely. Arbiters and Resistance fighters alike stared at the glowing connection between Ethan and Kalina, physical proof of a union that transcended species. "The war between progress and protection has torn our civilization apart for too long," Kalina said, her royal authority evident in her voice despite centuries of imprisonment. "Perhaps what Ethan and I have become offers a new path." Over the following days, as fragile negotiations began between the conclave and the Resistance, Ethan and Kalina explored the new reality of their existence. Their consciousnesses remained distinct yet connected, able to separate physically while maintaining their neural bond across any distance. They discovered that Kina could temporarily transfer her consciousness back into the helmet when necessary, allowing them to share physical experiences through either body. What had begun as imprisonment had evolved into a form of freedom neither could have imagined. A month later, they stood on a balcony overlooking the city, which had begun to show signs of revitalization as exiled Astorians returned home. The prohibition on knowledge sharing was being cautiously reconsidered, with Ethan and Kina serving as living proof that different worlds could connect without destruction. "Do you ever regret it?" Kina asked as they watched one of the three moons rise. "Sacrificing a normal human life for this?" Ethan smiled, feeling the complex emotions flowing through their bond. Her lingering guilt, her profound gratitude, and underneath it all, a love that transcended physical form. "I was just a struggling mechanic with a failing shop when I found a $10 helmet," he said, taking her hand. "Now I'm neural bonded to an alien queen and helping broker peace for an advanced civilization. I'd call that an upgrade." She laughed, a sound that still delighted him in its physical form after knowing it only as a mental impression for so long. "We still don't know the full implications of what we've become," she said more seriously. "The bond could continue to evolve, change us further." "Then we'll face that together," he replied. "Between your royal strategic mind and my knack for motorcycle maintenance, I think we've got the skills to handle whatever comes next." As night fell over Astoria, Ethan reflected on the impossible journey that had brought him across the stars. The helmet that had once contained Kina's imprisoned consciousness now sat on a pedestal in the royal chambers, no longer a prison but a symbol of unexpected connection. When he had placed it on his head that first night in his apartment, he could never have imagined that the voice inside would lead not only to adventure across the cosmos, but to a love that existed beyond physical form, a connection that had literally rewritten his neural pathways and changed the course of an alien civilization. The $10 helmet had indeed spoken and changed his life, not through the power it promised, but through the bond it created. And as he stood beside Kina, their shared consciousness pulsing between them like a second heartbeat, Ethan knew he wouldn't trade this new existence for anything in this galaxy or any other.